My stepmom tried to trick me into signing away my inheritance, right in the middle of my engagement dinner, and the venue manager ended up exposing her. Tell me which city you're watching from. I'm dying to know where my smart girls are tuning in from. Drop it in the comments below. Now, let's get into it. The champagne glass slipped from my fingers when I read the words irrevocable release of all claims buried in what was supposed to be a venue liability waiver. There I was, standing in a $500 dress at my own engagement dinner, surrounded by 60 guests, while my stepmom Victoria smiled at me with those perfect veneered teeth, waiting for me to sign away my birthright. Just sign it quickly, honey, she cooed, her manicured finger tapping the signature line. The venue needs it for insurance purposes. You know how these fancy places are. But I knew legal language when I saw it. 3 years of working as an executive assistant to a CEO taught me to read every document like my life depended on it. And apparently tonight, my financial future did. The paper trembled in my hands, not from fear, but from the adrenaline rush of realizing what was happening. This woman, who'd been married to my father for 12 years before his death 8 months ago, was trying to steal everything he'd left me, and she'd chosen my engagement dinner to do it. Is everything all right, sweetheart? Victoria's voice dripped with fake concern. The room was warm with candlelight and conversation. My fiancé Marcus across the room charming my cousins, completely unaware that his future mother-in-law was attempting highway robbery in Hermes heels. I looked up at her, really looked at her. The auburn hair she'd started dyeing after Dad's funeral to look younger. The designer dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The diamond tennis bracelet Dad gave her for their 10th anniversary, now sparkling under the chandelier like a mockery of everything sacred. I just need to read through this, I said, my voice steady as granite. You know me, always so careful with legal documents. Her eye twitched. Just barely, but I caught it. The document was 3 pages, disguised with a venue letterhead Victoria had somehow acquired or faked. But buried in the middle of page 2, between actual venue liability clauses, was language that would release my claims to Dad's family trust, his investment portfolio, and the lake house where I'd spent every summer since I was 5. My phone was in my clutch on the table. I needed to buy time. Could you grab me some water? I asked Victoria. I'm feeling a little lightheaded. Must be the champagne. She hesitated, probably calculating whether leaving me alone with the document was worth the risk of making a scene. The good hostess in her won. Of course, dear. The second she turned away, I whipped out my phone and started photographing every page. My paralegal friend Emma would know exactly what this was. But as I lifted the papers to catch better light, I noticed something else. The notary section at the bottom wasn't just blank, it was specifically formatted for on-site completion. That's when it hit me. This venue, the Grandview Estate, actually did require notarized documents for certain types of events. Victoria had been counting on their in-house notary to witness this without reading it carefully. But what if the notary did read it? What if they read it out loud? I should have seen this coming when Victoria insisted on planning my engagement dinner herself. It's tradition, she'd said 3 weeks ago, dabbing her eyes with tissues that never actually touched her face. Your father would have wanted me to do this for you. My father would have wanted a lot of things, like being alive to walk me down the aisle, like seeing his grandson one day, like his second wife not being a gold-digging snake who started transferring assets the day after his funeral. But I'd said yes because I was tired of fighting. 8 months of grief, of sorting through Dad's things, of dealing with lawyers and accountants and memories that cut like glass every time I breathed. I thought letting Victoria plan one dinner couldn't hurt. God, I was naive. The invitation list should have been my first red flag. She'd invited her entire book club, her Pilates instructor, her hairdresser's assistant, but somehow forgot to include Dad's sister Linda, who'd been like a second mother to me. When I asked about it, Victoria claimed she'd lost Linda's contact information. Linda, who lived 3 blocks away from us. The second red flag was the venue choice. The Grandview Estate was gorgeous, sure, but it was also where Victoria's divorce attorney held his daughter's wedding last year. I knew because she'd talked about it non-stop, about how sophisticated their legal procedures were, how they had everything handled in-house, even notaries. Now standing there with this poisoned document in my hands, watching Victoria return with water I didn't need, I understood the whole sick game. She'd built this elaborate trap, baited it with sentiment and family obligation, and expected me to walk right in. "Here you go, sweetheart," Victoria said, handing me the water. "Now we really should hurry. The photographer wants to do family photos before dinner is served." Family photos. As if she had any right to that word after what she was trying to pull. I took a sip of water, slowly, deliberately. Around us guests mingled and laughed, unaware of the war happening in whispers and fake smiles. My cousin Bradley was telling a story about his last fishing trip. My best friend Sarah was admiring the centerpieces. Normal people having a normal time at what they thought was a normal party. "Victoria," I said, setting down the glass. "This is quite a comprehensive document. I should probably have my lawyer review it first." Her smile flickered like a candle in wind. "Don't be silly, it's just standard venue paperwork. Everyone else signed theirs when they arrived." That was a lie. I'd been greeting guests for the past hour, and nobody had signed anything. "Still," I said, matching her fake sweetness with my own. "Dad always taught me to be careful with legal documents. You remember how meticulous he was." I watched her jaw clench at the mention of Dad. She hated when I brought him up, especially in contexts that reminded people he'd been the one with money, not her. "We don't have time for this," she hissed, dropping the act for just a second. "The venue needs it now." "Then let's get the notary," I said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "We should do this properly." Victoria's face went through several colors, like a mood ring having a breakdown, but she couldn't refuse without looking suspicious. Not with my Aunt Patricia now watching us curiously from the dessert table. "Of course," Victoria said through gritted teeth. "I'll fetch him." While she was gone, I forwarded the photos to Emma with a simple message: "You Argent, is this what I think it is?" Emma's response was immediate: "Holy Ashes *T do not sign. This is an inheritance release disguised as a venue waiver. She's trying to strip your trust fund rights. I'm sending this to my boss now." The notary arrived, a tall man in his 50s with kind eyes and a precise manner. Victoria, trailing behind him, looked like she'd swallowed glass. "Good evening, Miss Reynolds," he said, extending his hand. "I'm James Morrison, the estate's notary. I understand you have a document to execute?" "Yes," I said, handing him the papers. "But I'd like you to review it first. Make sure everything is in order. You know, for everyone's protection." Victoria's hand shot out. "That's not necessary, James. It's just the standard venue waiver." But James was already reading, his expression shifting from professional courtesy to confusion, then to something harder. "Mrs. Whitman," he said slowly, turning to Victoria, "this is not our venue waiver." "What do you mean?" Victoria's voice pitched higher. "Of course it is. Your office sent it to me. Ma'am, I draft all legal documents for the estate. This document," he paused, looking between us. "This appears to be a release of inheritance claims, with our letterhead somehow attached." The music seemed to stop, or maybe that was just my perception, because suddenly it felt like everyone within 20 feet was watching our little drama unfold. "There must be some mistake," Victoria stammered. "I received this from your office. I can assure you we did not send this." James's voice was firm. "In fact, using our letterhead without authorization could be considered fraud." That's when Marcus appeared, probably sensing something was wrong from across the room. "Everything okay here, babe?" "Your fiancé," James said, "was nearly tricked into signing away her inheritance rights." The champagne tower behind Victoria chose that exact moment to experience what the venue would later call a structural failure. 3 levels of glasses came cascading down in a symphony of shattering crystal and spilled Dom Perignon. Victoria, trying to step back from the conversation, slipped on the spreading puddle and went down hard, her designer dress soaking up champagne like a $3,000 sponge. But I didn't move to help her. Neither did Marcus. Neither did anyone, actually. We all just stood there, watching her struggle to get up in her wet dress and ruined dignity. "I think," I said clearly, "we need to have a different conversation about documents." While 2 servers helped Victoria to her feet, I reached into my clutch and pulled out a different set of papers. I'd been carrying them for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. I just hadn't expected it to be tonight. "Mr. Morrison," I said to the notary, "since you're here, I actually do have documents that need notarizing." Victoria was dabbing at her dress with cocktail napkins, mascara starting to run, but her eyes snapped to me with laser focus. "What documents?" she demanded. A formal notice of boundary establishment and cessation of contact, I said, keeping my voice steady and clear. Effective immediately, you are no longer welcome in my life, my home, or any family events I host. The room was definitely watching now. Someone, probably my cousin Marie, was holding up her phone, recording everything. You can't do this, Victoria sputtered. I'm your father's widow. I have rights. You have no rights to me, I replied. Dad's been gone 8 months, and you've spent every one of them trying to steal from me. First it was the small things, his watch collection, his first edition books. Then you tried to change the life insurance beneficiaries. Now this. Those are lies, Victoria shrieked, champagne still dripping from her hem. I have receipts, I said simply, for everything, including the email you sent to your lawyer 2 days after Dad's funeral, asking how to contest his will. Marcus stepped closer to me, his hand finding mine. The warmth of his touch grounded me as I continued. Mr. Morrison, would you please notarize this document? I want it legally binding that Victoria Whitman is no longer part of my family, and any attempt to contact me will be considered harassment. But before James could respond, a voice came from behind the crowd that had gathered. That won't be necessary. Everyone turned. There stood Aunt Linda, Dad's sister, holding a manila envelope and looking like an avenging angel in St. John. Linda, Victoria said weakly. I didn't know you were invited. I invited myself, Linda replied, walking forward. When I heard you were planning this little ambush, I thought it was time to share something Richard left in my care. She handed me the envelope. Inside was a thick legal document with Dad's law firm's letterhead. Your father, Linda announced to the room, updated his trust 6 weeks before he died. He was quite aware of what might happen after he was gone. I read the first page, my hands shaking. Irrevocable trust, sole beneficiary, protected from spousal claims. He knew, Linda said, looking directly at Victoria. He knew exactly what you were, and he protected his daughter. You can't touch a penny of her inheritance. You never could. Victoria's face crumbled like wet tissue paper. All that planning, all that manipulation, and she'd been playing a game she'd already lost. He also, Linda continued, pulling out another document, had me document every asset you've taken from the house since his death. We have photographs, receipts, and witness statements. If you'd like to avoid prosecution for theft, I suggest you return everything within 72 hours. The room was silent except for the drip of champagne from the collapsed tower and Victoria's raggedy breathing. You knew, Victoria whispered, looking at me. You knew this whole time. No, I admitted. I found out 30 seconds ago. But I knew my father. He taught me to protect myself, to read every document, to trust but verify, and he never trusted you. Marcus squeezed my hand. Do you want her removed? He asked quietly. But I shook my head. Let her stay. Let everyone see exactly who she is. Victoria stood there, soaked and exposed. Her entire scheme collapsed around her like the champagne tower. Then she did something I didn't expect. She laughed, a bitter broken sound that made several guests step back. You think you've won, she said. But you're just like him, cold, calculating, incapable of real love. No, I said firmly. I'm capable of love. I just learned not to waste it on people who see it as weakness. I turned to address the room, my family, my real family, the ones who'd come to celebrate my engagement, and instead witnessed an attempted heist. I apologize for the drama, I said. But I promise the rest of the evening will be nothing but celebration. Mr. Morrison, could you please help Mrs. Whitman find her way out, and perhaps document her condition for legal purposes? James nodded, already pulling out his phone. The estate takes fraud very seriously. We'll be filing a report. As security arrived to escort Victoria out, she turned back one last time. Your father would be ashamed of you. My father, I said, would be proud that I didn't let you steal what he worked his whole life to leave me. He'd be proud that I stood up for myself, and he'd be thrilled that I did it in front of everyone. So there's no question about who you really are. She left without another word, her champagne-soaked shoes squelching with every step. The party could have been ruined, should have been probably. But something magical happened instead. As Victoria's car pulled away, my cousin Bradley raised his glass. To family, he said loudly. The real kind, the chosen kind, the kind that doesn't try to rob you blind at your own engagement party. The room erupted in laughter and agreement. Glasses were raised, the band started playing again, and suddenly my disaster of an engagement dinner became the most honest family gathering we'd had in years. Linda pulled me aside, while Marcus fielded questions from curious relatives. "Your father wanted me to give you this on your wedding day," she said, handing me a smaller envelope. "But I think tonight counts." Inside was a letter in Dad's handwriting. "My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and Linda has had to protect you from Victoria. I'm sorry for bringing her into our lives. I was lonely after your mother died, and I let that loneliness make me foolish. But you were never foolish. You saw through her from the start, and I should have listened. The trust is yours, protected and untouchable. The lake house is yours. Everything that matters is yours. More importantly, you have something Victoria never will: the ability to love genuinely and be loved in return. Don't let her poison make you hard. Don't let my mistake make you suspicious of everyone. Trust your instincts. They've always been good. And know that I loved you more than words can say. Everything I did, even the mistakes, came from wanting to leave you secure and happy. Be happy, sweetheart. That's all I ever wanted." Dad, I was crying now, not caring about my makeup. Marcus appeared with tissues and a gentle kiss to my temple. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, looking around at our guests. Our real family, all of them toasting and laughing, and creating exactly the kind of memory we should be making. "I'm better than okay." Emma arrived 20 minutes later with her boss and a cease and desist letter ready to file. The venue manager came personally to apologize and comped our entire event. 3 of Victoria's supposed friends approached me during dinner to share their own stories of her manipulation. But the best moment came when the DJ, who'd apparently been watching the whole drama unfold, decided to play gold digger. As we cut the cake, the entire room lost it, including me. Sometimes you have to laugh at the absurdity of people who think they can outsmart love with legal documents. I'm writing this on my wedding day, sitting in the bridal suite at the lake house. The same lake house Victoria tried to steal. Outside, Marcus and his groomsmen are setting up chairs on the lawn where Dad taught me to fish, where Mom planted roses that still bloom every summer, where real memories live. Victoria contested the trust. Of course. She lost. She tried to claim spousal support. She lost that too. Last I heard, she was dating a real estate developer in Phoenix, probably sizing up his portfolio as we speak. But here's what I learned from that night at the engagement dinner. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's simply refusing to let them destroy you. It's standing firm in your truth while they drown in their lies. Would you have signed that document without reading it? Would you have trusted family blindly? Drop a fire emoji if you think I handled it right, or tell me what you would have done differently. Here's the thing about inheritance wars. They're never really about the money. They're about power, control, and the desperate need some people have to take what was never theirs. Victoria thought she could use my engagement dinner, a moment of joy and distraction, to slip past my defenses. What she didn't understand was that my father raised me to be vigilant even in joy, especially in joy, because that's when the vultures circle, thinking you're too happy to notice their approach. Linda just knocked on my door. It's time to walk down the aisle. Dad won't be there to give me away, but his protection still surrounds me. His lessons still guide me. His love still fills every corner of this house that Victoria will never set foot in again. To those of you watching who've dealt with toxic family, who've had to set boundaries with people who share your blood, but not your values, you're not alone, you're not wrong, and you're definitely not obligated to keep people in your life who would rob you blind with a smile. The notary from that night, James Morrison, is actually officiating our wedding. He said it's the least he could do after witnessing the most dramatic document review of his career. He also said the venue has since updated their security procedures to prevent letterhead theft. So at least something productive came from Victoria's scheme. As I sign my name on this marriage certificate in a few hours, I'll think about that night, about how I almost signed away my future, because someone I was supposed to trust asked me to, about how reading the fine print saved me, about how sometimes the most important document you can sign is the one that says I choose who gets to be in my life. But mostly I'll think about love, real love, the kind that protects and provides even from beyond the grave, the kind that shows up with cease and desist letters when you need them, the kind that holds your hand while you face down your demons in designer shoes. Victoria was wrong about one thing. I'm not cold or calculating. I'm careful, there's a difference. And if that makes me just like my father, well, I can think of worse things to be. Thanks for watching my story. Tell me where you're from in the comments, and whether you've ever had to deal with a Victoria in your own life. Like and subscribe if you want more stories about standing up to family fraud. And remember, always read before you sign, especially when someone says it's just a formality. The wedding starts in 10 minutes. Time to go become Mrs. Marcus Coleman with all my inheritance intact and my boundaries firmly in place. Sometimes the best revenge is a life well lived, and mine, it's about to be spectacular.